Kendo begins and ends with day, or manners. My name's Andy Fisher, and on this episode of the Kendo Show, we're going to be looking at all aspects of Reiho. Reiho is how we express manners in Kendo. It can be said that Kendo begins and ends with the day, and it's arguably the most important factor of the practice of Kendo. It's often the first thing you learn when you first begin Kendo. And despite your ability with the shinai, it's something that you can do no matter your age, your skill level, or how long you've been practicing Kendo. So it's important that you treat it with the utmost importance. Today, we're going to look at some of the philosophical aspects of Reiho, and we're also going to look at some of the physical manifestations and expressions of Rei in Kendo. So let's have a look at some of the philosophical points of Rei in Kendo. The All Japan Kendo Federation defines the concept of Kendo as disciplining the human character through the practice of the principles of the katana, or Japanese sword. Although the official translation says disciplining the human character, the actual original Japanese text refers to a concept called ningen keisei, which really is more about formation of character. And I really feel that that's more to do with the genuine concept of practicing Kendo. It's not just about disciplining yourself, but it's actually about formulating yourself into a good person. So through the practice of Kendo and its associated Reiho, or manners, we can help ourselves become more polite people and more interesting and more likable people to deal with for others. What's really important about Rei and Reiho in Kendo is that it isn't something that you should just practice within the dojo. It's something that you should have in the forefront of your mind and deep in your heart in your everyday life. So with that in mind, we'll look at some of the sort of physical manifestations and expressions of manners in Kendo, but I'd like you to try and think about the meaning behind them and how they are used to express those manners to each other, and how you can take those points into other aspects of your everyday life. Perhaps the most iconic expression of manners in Kendo is bowing, something that's very, very important in Japanese culture and, of course, is very, very prominent in the practice of Kendo. Before we look at the specific types of bowing in Kendo, we're going to first off look at some of the postures that you need to make before you can perform a correct bow. The first is called shizentai. This is a natural stance with the feet roughly at shoulder width in a sort of relaxed but well-postured manner. Your back should be straight, so should your neck, and your chin should not be too far down or too far up. Shoulders nice and relaxed, with the shinai at the position that's called sageto, which is where the shinai is held relaxed at your side, with the tsuru, the string, facing towards the floor. The right hand is held in a relaxed way against your right thigh. Okay, not like this or anything like that, just like this. The second posture is called seiza, the seating position. From the shizentai position, we're going to take the shinai and put it onto our hip, which is called taito. The thumb goes onto the tsuba, and the middle of the handle is in the middle of your body. Further, the tsukagashira, this part, the tip of the handle, is lower than the kansian, the tip of the shinai itself, when looked at from the side. So it's at this nice angle. If this is a real sword and you were to hold it like this, of course it would fall out on the floor, so it should be at this angle. So from once we're in the taito posture, the left leg goes backwards, and the weight stays in the center, and you drop the weight straight down using the legs, and then the right leg follows like this. Sitting straight down on the floor with the toes either crossing over or sat neatly next to each other. The shinai is then placed at your side by placing the kansian first, the tip of the shinai, quietly on the floor, followed by the tsuba. This is the hand guard, the tsuba. The level of the tsuba should be at about the same place as your knees, here like this. The tsuru, the string, should be facing away from you. Okay? Just like this, nice and neatly. And it should be placed carefully so that it doesn't roll away. Now is a good time to fix your hakama. Make sure you're nice and neat. There should be 2 fist widths between your knees. A nice straight posture with the fingers together and the hands on top of the thighs. As with the shizentai posture, you want to make sure that your back is straight, but your shoulders are relaxed. You don't want your chin down and you don't want your chin up like this. This is the seiza posture. To stand up from here and go back to shizentai, we start by taking the shinai back to the taito posture, again without making a noise, very carefully, thumb on the tsuba, tsukagashira in the middle of our body, and slightly higher than the kensen. The kensen at this point must not touch the floor, like this. From here, we're going to stand up using our right leg, the opposite of when we sat down. We first start by raising ourselves onto our toes, and then the right leg comes up and we stand straight up. We don't come forward, don't let our weight fall forward or lean forward. Keep our posture straight and send our weight straight up into the air this way. And quietly back to the shizentai posture. So, we now know how to do shizentai and how to do seiza. But how do we actually perform a bow? There's 2 main types of bows in kendo. There's the first one, which is called ritsurei. This is the standing bow. Ritsu means to stand, and rei is obviously the word for manners, and is in this case referring to the bow. The second type is called zarei, which is the seated bow. So let's start with ritsurei. There's actually 2 subcategories of ritsurei, or subtypes, I should say. There's when you do ritsurei towards the shomen or the shinzen, and there's when you do ritsurei towards an aite or a partner. First, let's look at how to do it towards the shinzen. From the shizentai posture, you make sure that your back is nice and straight and that you're doing shizentai correctly. Keeping the shinai at the sageto position. Using the hips, you want to tilt the body forward slightly and the eyes go straight down towards the floor. The angle of this rei is about 30 degrees. From the side, it looks a little bit like this. Straight down like this. Okay? It's important to know that the shinai shouldn't move when you do this. Okay? Shouldn't be doing it like this. Okay? Make sure that the shinai stays where it is and calmly and quietly perform ritsurei. It should be held for perhaps just 1 or 2 seconds. Again, the eyes go straight at the floor. That is a key point of doing ritsurei towards the shomen. When you do ritsurei towards an aite or a partner, a practice partner, it's very important that you keep your eyes towards your partner. Further, the actual bow is slightly shallower, perhaps only 15 degrees. The eyes are kept all of the time locked on the eyes of your aite. It's very rude to remove your eyes from their eye contact, like this, or like this, or like this, okay? You must keep your eyes focused in this way, okay? Again, the shinai doesn't move, just about 15 degrees or so. Of course, nobody's going to come at you with a protractor and measure the angle. Yeah, it's approximate. Yeah, but towards shomen, straight down, eyes down, and a little bit deeper. Towards the aite, slightly shallower, and eyes forwards. These are 2 very, very important and basic elements of expressing manners. One last thing on ritsurei before we move on to zarei is how you should hold the in Japanese, what they say, kimochi, in your heart. You have to think as you make the day this way. You have to have the thoughts of, again, as they say in Japanese, onagai shimasu, please practice with me. Or towards the dojo, towards shomen or the shinzen, onagai shimasu. Or, arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much. This is something that you do at the beginning and end of each practice. And you must make sure that it isn't just going through the motions. You must genuinely express towards your partner or towards the practice hall itself your sincere gratitude for allowing you to improve at Kendo and also for assisting your practice. This is very, very important in correctly practicing Kendo overall. So the next type of day or bow that we will look at is called zare, or the seated bow. From the Seiza position, as before, we make sure that our posture is relaxed, but also correct. Nice and straight back, straight neck, and relaxed shoulders and elbows, fingers together. The first step is to place our arms and our hands forwards. They need to make a slight triangle, like this, between them. And they go slightly in front of us in this way, maybe just a few inches or so. From here, they need to be at the appropriate position for when you perform the day, that your head is directly over your hands in this method. Okay? So, the reason that they say that the triangle should be made in this way, this is from days of old when the samurai were still often fighting with each other and had lots of trouble in those ways. And you never knew if you could always trust the person that you were performing the bow to. So you would always leave a triangle here in case they decided to sort of put your head down this way, maybe into the earth or something like that, so that you still could make yourself some space to breathe. That's at least the legend that I've heard anyway. Okay, so hands out together, okay? In some forms of other martial arts, such as Iaido, some schools of Iaido and some other martial arts as well, they often teach you to place the left hand and then the right hand. And that is also something that's acceptable in many Kendojo as well. The official All Japan Kendo Federation method, however, is for both hands to be placed simultaneously. So, hands out in a triangle, straight in front of you, and from the hips, without bending your neck or bending your back, you move your weight forward using your hips this way. Without raising your backside, you go straight down and eyes straight towards the floor. In this way. Okay? And again, as you raise up from the bow, from here, nice back and neck straight. As you raise up in this way, hands again simultaneously return to the thighs. Okay, so next I'd like to cover some general points of Reiho in Kendo, some general points of manners that you should bear in mind, especially when inside of a dojo. The first is that whenever you enter or leave the dojo or the place of practice, you should turn towards the shomen and at the entrance of the dojo and perform ritsure. And this should be the kind of ritsure that we spoke about a moment ago, where you bow to 30 degrees and the eyes straight towards the floor. Another general aspect of Reiho that you should be aware of is how we treat the shinai. The shinai is something that we use in Kendo in sort of substitute for a real sword. And in Japan, the Japanese sword is a very culturally important item, and it is to be treated with a great deal of respect. There's certain things that are considered very rude that perhaps in the West we don't normally think about. Things such as stepping over the shinai. Stepping over the shinai is something that's considered very rude and that you should avoid doing. Also, when you place the shinai down at rest, you should try your best to place it with the point of the shinai away from the floor. So it should be placed at rest with this part, the tsukagashira, against the floor and the tip, the kansian, against the wall. Further, the shinai is not a toy and it shouldn't be played around with or messed around with. In fact, messing around in the dojo in general is something of a no-no, so please avoid doing that as well. When you come to the dojo, you should be mentally prepared to practice seriously. When the shinai is dropped on the floor, it's very important that you don't just pick it up. It's actually the correct way is to go down to one knee and pick it up, place the shinai to taito before standing up. Okay, so that's also something that's extremely important. Another aspect of etiquette within the dojo is you should always avoid walking in front of other people. Whenever possible, you should try and walk behind others. Okay, if there's an unavoidable circumstance, for example, if somebody is stood with their back towards a wall, or it's very crowded and you can't walk around the back, it's very important you should place your hand out this way as you pass in front of them. This is to show that you are not in an aggressive or about to strike them with your sword. Okay, this again is from the old days of the samurai. And lastly, I'm not sure if everyone would really consider this as something that's part of Reiho, but it's very bad manners not to show your willingness or your desire to improve and learn in Kendo. For this reason, when you come to the dojo, as I said a moment ago, you should be mentally prepared to improve and to try your very best. Also, in the situation where, for example, the teacher is receiving practice from his students, you should always try and be the first in line. You should be try to be the first to put on your uniform and put on your armor, and be the first one in line to do that practice and show that willingness to improve, even through the harder aspects of Kendo. So, there were some of the key points of Rei in Kendo, or Reiho as it's broadly termed. We looked at some of the philosophical points about the meaning behind some of the manners in Kendo, as well as some of the physical expressions and some general points as well. I hope it was an interesting episode for you today, and I hope that you gained from it. Obviously, these are the opinions of just myself, so if you learn something different in your own dojo, please do follow the teachings of your sensei. It's also very important for me to mention at this point that the Kendo Show is a free service. It's obviously coming to you free via the power of the internet. And we're keeping it free by part funding it through another project called KendoStar, which is a brand new website that I'm operating, offering the top quality Kendo equipment straight from Japan, made to order. And it's top quality stuff that's made specifically for Kendo practitioners abroad. So do make sure you check it out, KendoStar.com. And yeah, make sure you check it out on Facebook and what have you as well. It's great stuff and definitely worth a look. So do have a look at that. Other than that, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you did enjoy this episode of the Kendo Show. We've got loads more stuff planned for you coming up. And yeah, make sure you don't miss out on it by making sure you hit that subscribe button, and also make sure those notifications are turned on your YouTube settings as well, so we can be sure to see you in the next episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Kendo Show. If you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you, please consider contributing to our Patreon fund. This will help us keep bringing content to you on a regular basis and continually improving the quality. Thank you so much for your continued support.